Okay, I'm going to be continuing ranking every single Star Wars character, worst from best. Now I'm on 65th place, Top. Top the clone was actually a really cool clone. I think he is one of those clones that I feel like gets, enough development to kind of care for his death. And you kind of get part of that arc of that part of that Order's arc, surrounding him with the malfunctioned Order 66 chip. So I think like that in and of itself, that kind of idea and concept seems really cool, and I think executing on a character that you've already seen somewhat disobey orders in the Umbera arc was cool. And I think you do get. I feel like a lot of people forget that he's in the Umbera arc, but you do see the relationship between Tup and Fives in the Umbera arc. So it's not out of nowhere that Fives would risk his life for him. So I think like Tup is one of those unique, cool kind of clones who have his own personality, who doesn't always follow orders in the first place. And so when his chip malfunctions and you see the pain he goes through, you see the conspiracy, you can't help but feel bad for him. So I really enjoy his Tup. He's not one of like the best characters, but still a really cool character. Coming in 64th place is Greef Karga from The Mandalorian. Greef Karga is great. Kind of like that, head of the Bounty Hunters Guild. Really cool character. I think while he doesn't have a lot to do for the majority of the season, I think him ultimately teaming up with the Mandalorian was a cool twist, and he works well with the Mandalorian. I think their chemistry is great, and played by a great actor. So again, not like doesn't have like a million trillion things to do, but the stuff he ends up doing throughout the show, kind of chasing him after, giving him the mission, chasing after him, then ultimately teaming up with him. He gets kind of a cool kind of mini arc throughout the show, and I'm excited to see where they take him, through the rest of the series, particularly continuing into season 2. Coming in 63rd place is Admiral Yularen. Admiral Yularen is a cool kind of character, staple of Clone Wars. Kind of that Anakin's commander tells Anakin what to do in missions. Kind of honestly one of like the driving forces of the Clone Wars. On the command ship, giving orders. But also on top of that, ultimately he joined with the Empire. He kind of has different motivations there, and his hand in figuring out about Ezra Bridger and all that stuff. So that was cool. And kind of putting Thrawn under his wing in some ways. But I think I love him as kind of like a great tactical friend to Anakin. So that was always cool. I think he's not one of the best characters, but I think putting him in a 63rd position is kind of cool for a character who honestly has more to do than you'd realize during the Clone Wars. Where did it go? Where are Star Wars characters? Coming in 62nd place is Ezra Bridger. Ezra, for me, while he gets a lot to do, and that's probably why he's in a 62nd place, and I think he's kind of cool with a lightsaber, and has, some great moments throughout the show's history. But I feel like as being the main character, he sometimes does get on my nerves. Like he tries to be kind of that Ahsoka of a nerdy, or not nerdy, but a bratty kind of person who doesn't really understand a lot of things, who's so arrogant, so kind of bratty, and so arrogant, and so naive. But the thing is, and we'll get to Ahsoka later on this list, and maybe another part, but maybe in this part, but whatever. Ahsoka learns and grows through her failures and through her mistakes and matures as a character. But I never feel that with Ezra. I feel like he always, and even through season 4, is still always that bratty, know-it-all, mean-headed, hot-headed, arrogant, naive character throughout the whole show. And yes, he makes the ultimate sacrifice, and that was kind of cool, but I don't know, there's something about that was like, yes, he has a lot of cool moments, and I think I enjoy the character. I think some of the stuff with his parents are cool, the development there, but it kind of comes off as like a lead that I feel like I wouldn't put him as a lead, but I still think is somewhat has good moments because it's the whole show around almost him. So obviously, naturally, he'll have great moments. But I think but for every great moments, there's a bunch of bad moments. Like, for example, Twin Sons. Twin Sons is a great episode. I love the dynamic between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan. But because it's the Ezra Bridger show, Ezra has to be in the mix, and it kind of gets on your nerves a little bit because, like, some episodes, like, that's the other thing. Some episodes don't need Ezra in the episode, like Twin Sons. Ezra doesn't need to be there, but because it's the Ezra Bridger show, he has to be sprinkled into an episode, which otherwise would have been a lot better if you just had it falling Maul going to Obi-Wan. Would have been a lot better. So it's like, I just think that was a frustrating part about it. And even like in episodes like Twilight of the Apprentice, majority of the episodes with Obi-Wan in it, with Maul in it, with Ahsoka in it, with other characters who feel more of the lead. Every time they cut back to Ezra, it kind of feels like whenever Ezra's not the lead of the episode, or even it, sometimes the supporting roles steal the show. It really does. So yeah, but I still like him as a character overall. Coming in 61st place is Galen Erso. Galen is a cool kind of character. I guess he kind of is almost like a plot device to say, hey, there's the Death Star was kind of destroyed too easy. Let's kind of create a character that would do that. But no, it was cool. It was cool to see kind of like a sign, because everybody just assumes if you work for the Empire, you're an idiot. You're a mad person. You're a dumb person. Or not dumb necessarily, but you're a bad person. You're mean. You're cruel. But I think what Galen kind of brings to the table is this guy who, not everybody goes to the Empire by choice. You see that with Finn, but also, heavily with Galen, and see that what effects that has on his family and particularly Jyn. So I think Galen is cool. I think kind of resisting, kind of, making that sacrifice, towards the end. Ultimately, he dies anyways because of the rebels. But still, he was gonna risk his life to save everybody else. And I think putting that flaw in the Death Star really commends him as a person that, even though, yes, he's forced to do something he doesn't want to do for an evil cause, he can still be a bigger person. And still, while obviously it was Luke who ultimately gave that final shot, and Jyn who gave the plans and all that stuff, and that Rogue One giving the plans or whatever, he still had a pivotal role, and I think that was kind of cool to establish. And I think, played great by Mads Mikkelsen, so all of that was good, stuff. Coming in 60th place, Kit Fisto. Kit is such a cool Jedi. I don't know what kind of species this is. I don't know anything about that. I just know that Kit Fisto looks cool. I think he had a cool episode in Clone Wars. Honestly, looking back, I probably wouldn't put him as high as I think I did. I probably did. But that doesn't mean that I think he is a cool character. I think the look of him, I think he has great lightsaber sequences. I think, the voice of him is great. I just think he's a cool Jedi. I think putting him in 60th place does, looking back on it, feel pretty generous, but is what it is. Coming in 59th place is Saw Gerrera. Saw is a cool character. I think Saw is another character that I feel like gets a really good arc. Going from like this rebel to wanting to win the war, feeling passionate towards something, passionate towards representing Alderaan, to someone who I think also is another unique character, because it's like he is very much against the Empire, but his ways are not the ways that the rebellion, agrees with. Because we all think, oh, everybody who's against the Empire is kind, is nice, is willing to save people. But his tactic is, for example, this is a good situation of, what Saw would do versus what the rebellion would do. The Empire is a mining guild, or on a planet, has 100 prisoners. Saw might say, let me just blow up the planet or blow up the mining guild, killing all the refugees, but he hates the Empire. So in one hand you're like, oh yeah, we destroy the whole Empire mining guild, but on the other hand you're sacrificing all the slaves. What the rebellion would do would send a ragtag group of rebels to save the slaves and still blow up the mining guild. But ultimately, will it work? Will it not work? So I think it does bring two opposition groups, and you see that with the Rebels, particularly the 4th season, when Saw contacts Mon Mothma, the leader of the rebellion at the time. So it really shows clashing heads of things who are both against, the Empire, but use different tactics. I think that's cool, and you see what he's been through with losing Steela, so you know where he's coming from with, this idea of, you cannot play easy. Because the Jedi, remember, because, when Ahsoka was guiding them, she was guiding them in somewhat of a civil manner, trying to save as many people as they can, saving citizens instead of just trying to wreak havoc and try to destroy try to stop the Separatists. I completely blanked out. So I think Saw has so much, I feel development between seeing the Alderaan arc and seeing kind of the place he's at in Rogue One with no legs and barely able to breathe because he's been through the toughest of war, trying to defeat the thing he hates, but realizing by realizing, hey, if I'm going to go on the ship with Jyn, I'm slowing all of them down. So sacrificing them for the greater good, for a cause that they don't, admire. And I think what ultimately happens with Rogue One is interesting because, like I said, Saw is one of those people who, as long as it destroys the Empire, I don't care if I die. I don't care if innocent people die, as long as the job gets done. So that's exactly what happens in Rogue One. The job gets done, but innocent soldiers die left and right. They all die. People just trying to fight for the cause die for the greater good. And so he realizes that, so what Saw did was ultimately give that Jyn an avenue to say, you know what, get the job done at all costs. And so that was cool, through and through. Coming in 58th place is the Bad Batch. I love clones, but I think especially the colors of the Bad Batch, red and black all the way. But I think Hunter's kind of cool, kind of Rambo-esque character. You got the big brawn of the group. You got the brains. You got the gunner. It's great. It's a great group. I wish we'd have seen more from the Bad Batch. In season 7, more if we got more of season 7. But I think what we got with the arc was great. I think their chemistry with the other clones was great. I love seeing them in action. They have some really cool action sequences in the group. So I think they don't have that much development, but just as the individual characters with their individual motivations and their stereotypes. Great team, great everything. They take everything I love about the clones and in some ways enhances them, but some ways make them even more unique and even more different and by making them Clone Force 99 or the Bad Batch. Great stuff, all around in that area. Coming in 57th place is Cara Dune. Cara's great. I think being played by a wrestler, it was a wrestler. No, it wasn't. It was a boxer. I don't know. I'm not always blank. I blank on those different contact sports. But yeah, because I'm a lot less familiar with them. But having someone in, I'm just going to say mixed martial arts, makes her action sequences great. I think the acting, was actually surprisingly better than I feel like you would have thought from someone who doesn't have a lot of acting experience, but also because she doesn't have a lot of lines. But, her action sequences, I feel like, do very much speak for herself. And I guess just the facial expressions when she's in those action sequences are cool. Cool sequence fighting the Mandalorian, just cool there. And I think having someone who is, another, ex-Empire personnel was kind of just great to see. Great to kind of have a renegade, someone who has no allegiance to any one person. And I think she has that cool episode in episode 4, but like I said, similar to Greef Karga, kind of comes back later, and also has more great moments throughout that final 2 episodes. So yeah, I really enjoy the character, and I'm excited to see where exactly they take this Cara Dune character, because I think she's interesting. Interesting kind of secondary character to the Mandalorian. That'll be interesting. And so yeah, I think overall I did enjoy that character. Oh goodness. Go back to it. Star Wars characters. Coming in 56th place is Jesse. That sacrifice of Jesse was crazy. And I think it was Jesse was the clone where you saw Order 66 from. That we knew. Because yes, obviously it was emotional in Rex's turn. But when Jesse turned and died because of that, that was where the rip started to tear in, because like you follow Jesse throughout these different arcs, but kind of seeing him turn, but then die for a cause he's has no control over. It's great stuff, and kind of the confliction he has with the kind of sequence he has with him and Rex, and seeing a clone that you followed throughout the show openly say, fire, kill Captain Rex. You're a traitor, Captain Rex, and kind of go at Captain Rex and Ahsoka. Were just great stuff. And then, but beyond that, just seeing him as kind of a paramedic type clone, and you see him earlier in that season. So I think or I'm thinking of Kix. I don't know. But yeah, he's a great character. Doesn't have that much to do, but when you see him in that final couple of episodes, kind of, you just dig in, because like you follow these clones, but when you see Order 66 happens, those named clones are just go at it, and it's crazy, and I love it. I love it on just emotional, personal type level. So yeah, that'll be it for this part of me ranking every single Star Wars film or Star Wars character, worst from best. Stay tuned for more parts of this series, and then just stay tuned for more videos coming right at you.